Alright, folks. So, before I continue with the book, I would like to show you guys something, and that is the Kingdom of Cyprus and the Caravan Kingdom, or Emirate. So, oh yeah, and then this is Korikos Fortress. This, the part which is on the island across the sea. So, this is not the part that I'm referring to when in the book. And this is the Kingdom of Cyprus. So, in the year 1360, Kingdom of Cyprus took Korikos fortress and its surrounding areas. It was a swift, as the Kingdom of Armenia was like crumbling apart. It swiftly snatched this little piece of land away from Armenians. And again, the disclaimer. Make sure to zoom in, and then yes, this is the part that I'm referring to when talking about the fortress. So as you can see here, it's the picture's not as good. Then this is the where the mainland Anatolia, where it's located on mainland Anatolia, and this is I would say it's like the harbor area, and then that's the island portion. So there was a story back then that a ruler of this fortress, of these two fortresses, there was a he got it from like a, I would say, one of the nuns warned him that his daughter would die from a snake bite. So he kept his daughter to live on this island fortress. So, but then I would say years later, Snake was somehow transported to the island fortress in a basket, and then it came out there and bit the daughter, and just the daughter died from poison. Yeah, it was a prophecy. Yeah, the nun, I guess, made a prophecy. Yeah, that was just a bit of side story that because I spent lots of time reading the Wikipedia regarding any medieval stuff, and especially the areas of where my book is at. So I would say that those two Turkish horsemen came around here and then just boom got in, just was allowed into the fortress and then had a talk with King John, or no, the liege of this place, whoever he was. Like I couldn't get the name, that's why he's not up there. And that's the island portion again, and looks it is well preserved, like surprisingly. And then let's see the coastlines there too. Yeah, and then this is in the year 1450, so obviously there will be territorial changes, but this is roughly how it looks like in that year of 1437 as well. So you would see that Kingdom of Cyprus, of course, Genoese would have this Famagusta city right there. It was a harbor city back then. Famagusta was right here. It was the last place to hold out from the Ottoman incursion in the 16th century. Uh, so Caravans, so the Seleucia was located like around there, and then Kingdom of Cyprus like had it, but then Caravans were originally didn't have it, but now they have it. So it said I think I remember it that Caravans conquered it at 1447, and Kingdom of Cyprus lost it, and by this point, Kingdom of Cyprus is tributary to the Egyptian Mamluk Sultanate. So, anyways, oh yeah, there's okay. What else was there? Oh yeah, and then this is the fortress. Yeah, I took these from Google Images. So these are the fortress of or this is the fortress which is located above Seleucia, the city that is called as Silifke now in Turkey. So, and that's the bridge over there. So let me get you closer so that you can see the bridge. All right, so medieval bridge right there. This is the medieval bridge, and Yeah, I think it was there ever since the Roman times. So pretty much the soldiers of Lord Pericles like landed like somewhere there because the other bridges didn't exist back then. So like around here, or I don't know. I'm just guessing right now. Like there's no indication of like harbor or something, but apparently, obviously, like for any of those bustling towns, they would of course have any docks for any major cities. So, alright, they landed like somewhere down, I would say, and then just conquered it throughout the lands. No. That was my original thought. Yeah, I'm getting back to the original thought. So my Yeah, that was how the original book was supposed to be, but then like I canceled it because this river is deep enough for the cargo ship, so I made up a new story which has Lord Pericles soldiers coming in from here and then conquering through the place, and then perhaps um, go, conquering up to like what was it, the guardsman's meeting place or something. Yeah, and then this fortress here, like the troops have to walk around it. It's like a spiral. It's like a spiral, so they'll have to walk around. So, hence the reason why they will take so long to get there and stuff. Oh man, that was a spoiler. So all right, whatever. I don't even care now. Just flying out, and then this is the bridge that those two Turks have taken to get to Korikos. Yeah, this is like I am so I am so appreciate like I really appreciate Google and like Wikipedia for like all these pictures. Like I mean, I don't have to be there at the spot to know what's going on, and I could just see this picture and just base it off of from it. It's actually a very big fortress. Like Binbashi is like the leader of 1,000 troops in the Turk King or Emirates, and I would say 1,000 men could easily live here or be stationed here. I would say with right enough resources and stuff like that, rations and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, I'm just getting backtracked here. So I'm gonna continue now. The first fortress guard put his head down. We apologize, Commander. We didn't consider our lieges at all before coming here. We've been cordial neighbors, so we just assumed that you would send some help. The commander sighed. There is no need for you to apologize to me. It's the problem with Seleucia's commanders and that lazy old Bimbashi of yours. The commander cleared his throat. But as for the naval reinforcement that you have requested, I'm not going to send a huge force. It's more like that I can't, because my liege will remove me from this place if I help you out too much. So instead, I'm going to send 2 old galleys with enough crew to be of some help, and 20 swordsmen and wagons to repay the debt that I owe to Koskin. So I hope that those should be enough for you. Wait, you owed some money to our commander? The commander nodded. Yeah, as you know, these twin fortresses and the villages along the river and the sea are all under my authority, and I have to pay my troops to keep them under my control. However, I sometimes hire many soldiers and get short on money, and if my liege decides not to bail me out, then I turn to Koskun to bail me out, and that's partially the reason why I'm helping you guys now. Thank you, sir, the 2 fortress guards said. Hurry up, we need to get going right now. With a frustrated expression, Commander Burke looked at his soldiers who were moving around very slowly. Give us some slack, Commander. We just barely finished our breakfast, a soldier said. Yeah, you're trying to mobilize many of us at once, and that's a big feat to accomplish, another soldier said. Enough! Don't you dare say another excuse to me. Commander Burke thumped on the ground. Heavy infantries, you march out first. Light infantries and I will catch up to you with all the supplies we need. The soldiers muttered to themselves and the heavy infantries marched out. Commander Burke gazed at the heavy infantries marching out. Move faster! Just because you're wearing armor doesn't mean you get to move slowly like that. The heavy infantries picked up some pace and marched out of the fortress. Wait! Hold on! It was Seth, and he was yelling at Ephraim, Apasios, and Lucio to stop. They stopped and waited for Seth to come near with an empty cart. Geez, everyone's starting to slow down right now, Apasios commented when Seth drew near. Seth looked around at other support infantry struggling with carts full of raided goods. Yeah, I know, raiding is much easier said than done. They started moving again, and Ephraim soon pointed at the defense building. That one seems to have a lot inside. Other guys are constantly going in and out with their hands full. Soon they approached the building and walked inside. Oh man, it's almost empty. Ephraim frowned upon looking around his surroundings. But why are the heavy melee guys retreating back to this building? Lucio peeked outside. Ephraim thought for a while. Maybe Lord Pericles is setting this building as the defense point. He looked around. I haven't seen armored archers. Where are they? Suddenly, Thomas appeared out of nowhere with a huge sack of raided goods on his shoulder. Hey, Ephraim, they're on the roof of this building. But have you seen my halberd anywhere? I think I've lost it. Ephraim pointed at the door. I've seen something sticking out behind the door. Thomas suddenly smiled. Well, thanks. I see it right there. He then looked at Seth. Did you bring the cart? Seth nodded, so Thomas continued speaking. Okay then, I'll put the sack on that cart outside, then get into a defensive position on the street. In the meanwhile, I want you guys to check upon the archers at the roof to see if they need anything. Check around the surroundings for any hidden enemies, and then suggest Claus and his squad to start raiding in the buildings at the coastal street so that they could be ready when the enemies barge in at the point. Seth had a confused look. Thomas, why are you in such a hurry? Thomas moved closer to Seth. Haven't you seen that huge fortress on the hill? Nuh-uh. Seth couldn't say anything more. Exactly. See that first before you suggest anything to me. There will surely be armored soldiers marching down from that fortress, so we must be ready. At the pace that we're raiding right now, we won't have any other choice but to fight them. Upon finishing his words, Thomas hustled out of the building. Seeing him go, Ephraim, Seth, and Apasios, and Lucio went up to the roof. Ephraim walked up to Captain George to speak, and others followed. Captain George, how are you guys doing up here? Captain George smirked. We're doing fine. Just taking a small break after a long time of raiding. How are we faring so far with the defense? Any hidden enemies? Ephraim said. Captain George looked around. Not that we know of. We're just getting ourselves ready to shoot at those militias when they draw near. He looked at the militias. They have slowed down somewhat. Must be lagging due to marching issues. Other than that, it's all good. Ephraim gazed at the militias for some time and looked back at Captain George. Do you guys need anything at this moment? Not really. Thomas got us the necessary supplies and fortress keepers are tending to them. Captain George suddenly flinched. Wait, where's Commander Kairos? Haven't seen him at all. I think I have seen him before with some soldiers by the harbor. Do you want us to let him know that you guys are up here? Seth said. Yeah, sure. He should be with us, not with them. Thus, they parted their ways with Captain George and walked out to the street. After that, they headed towards the harbor to catch up with Captain Claus' group, to change raiding areas and look for Commander Kairos to let him know that Captain George is expecting him at the defense building. The Korikos commander pointed at his naval troops getting their galleys ready. Look at them. The soldiers need to move around swiftly in order to react to the invasions happening nearby. The fortress guards nodded. We understand, sir. The commander sighed. I have no idea why you guys weren't informed regarding the raiders earlier than this. There are harbor guards, watchtower soldiers, village guards, and the river soldiers who should be maintaining constant watch on the Kallikatnas River, because Seleucia is an important trade city. He shook his head. Sadly, I can't do anything about that. But just so that you guys know, lack of security on your land threatens us too. Wait, why are you talking so much in detail regarding the river area? Why not those guards that are watching over the mountains? The second fortress guard said. The commander cursed. Come on, you should be intelligent enough to know that based on the information that you currently have regarding the raiders, they must have come from somewhere beyond the Great Sea. I could already have a hypothetical guess that they have come from the Venetian Crete or Hospitaller Knight's Roads. So, Alright, so let me stop here for a while. So, Hospitaller Knights. Yeah. They're also the Knights of St. John. So Rhodes, this is Rhodes Island right here. So in the past, those Knights of Rhodes, the Turks, Ottoman Turks, had a problem with the Knights of Rhodes because we've always been told that it's the Muslim armies that are doing all the raidings and stuff, but in reality, it was something mixed. I mean, still the Muslims like the a lot, but then like there are also numerous ru- numerous evidences which the Christian nations did the raidings as well. So Turks had a problem with the Knights of Saint John because they were raiding the Turkish shippings and stuff. So that's why my story right now just somewhat connects to how the mood was because like we're looking at pretty much like English stuff and sources, so it would definitely be biased against Muslim sources and stuff like that. But there are evidences in which Christian nations, like even the Romans too, they have also done so many raidings into the Turkish territories when they were strong enough. I mean, uh, Emperor John in like middle of 12th century, he was called addressed as the wall breaker, who would break down the Turkish walls and conquer settlements by settlements. It was his mistake that he decided to just like intervene into the Latin territories, not focusing on Anatolia. That like his legacy was kind of held on pause, and his years ran out. His life years ran out, and he couldn't conquer back all the Anatolia. Romans needed Anatolia to live on, but with the core of this Anatolia, like back then it was very fertile, lots of horses, and it was economic powerhouse comparable to Egyptian grain fields. So not having that was a disaster, like long time disaster for the Romans. So with his like distracted nature, venturing into the Latin kingdoms, it's like uh, kingdom of Jerusalem and all those Crusader kingdoms were basically uh, Roman satellite states back then. So yeah, intervening too much on those Latin nations like got got the Romans killed in the long term. Should have taken out the Turks first before paying attention to the outside world. So anyways, that's basically it. So a little bit of distraction right there. So really sorry about that for those people, for those of you who want to focus. So anyways, let's resume. The second fortress guard flinched. Oh, if that's true, then your two galleys could wait by the mouth of Calicadnus River and blockade the raider ships. The commander nodded. Yes, I've already told them to stop any large ships from coming out. Geez, Commander, you're a genius compared to Commander Burke, the first fortress guard said. Nah, it's just that he's really dumb. I don't know how he's even a commander. The commander cleared his throat. Just watch and see. I bet that he won't even be able to take care of those raiders. Can I just return to the fortress? Can't the city infantries handle those annoying raiders on their own? Commander Burke complained to his assistants while riding in a luxurious wagon pulled by two horses outside. He fiddled with his beard while frowning very much. One of the assistants cleared his throat. Commander, it was Binbashi's wish that you go out instead of Commander Koskun. You know that Commander Koskun always complains about how you get more favors from Binbashi, so I believe that this is your chance to silence him. Indeed, Commander Burke. What's out there which is easier to do than killing those annoying raiders? Another assistant said. Commander Burke peeked outside for a long moment. I know that, but it's still quite hot and humid out here, and my soldiers aren't faring so well. He grimaced as he looked at his soldiers following him. They seemed out already, and it was just a march down the hill. The raiders surely picked the rightful day to raid. He heavily sat back down on the seat in the wagon. If we rest them up for a while in the shade of the trees, and they'll surely get it back together, the third assistant said. Wait, look! There are city infantries. It seems they came here to seek our help, the wagon driver yelled from outside. Soon, Commander Burke got outside and sat next to a driver and waited for the city infantries to come close. A city infantry, a few infantries ran over, and one of them came up to speak on behalf of everyone. Commander, the raiders have killed many of our people and smote the city guards and peasant levies in such a short time. People are too afraid to come out into the streets while some have fled to the other side of the river, and the raiders have claimed the harbor, market square, and the guard station. Then it seems they are preparing to raid the church. So please help us. He knelt down and pleaded to Commander Burke. Commander Burke sighed. Come on, you guys hardly put in any effort, and you come here to seek my help? He then looked at others behind the guy. You stupid greenhorns! Why are you having so much trouble over those seasonal raiders? He grunted in frustration. But anyways, who's there fending them off right now? We sent our militias and told them to march slowly for the rest of us to catch up, the guy said. Oh my goodness, that's not how you use your men. You don't send them little by little. Remember, if it's against the raiders, you send in at least 100 at once to overwhelm their defense. Commander Burke was losing his patience. So, go over there and get everyone to meet up with us at the edge of the city. He then pointed at the location for the infantries to see. Therefore, the infantries quickly rushed away on their horses to deliver the new commands. Lord Pericles looked around at his soldiers who had gotten into a defensive position at the western street. He looked on and realized that the militias had marched quite close and were getting ready to charge at them. Suddenly, the archers on the roof started shooting, and with that the militias began their charge with their shields raised to cover the arrows. When the militias had come close, the heavy melee infantries counter-charged upon them, and archers changed their targets to the militias who were still lagging at the back, so that ally killing risk would be minimized. Then, something caught his attention. It was Thomas who was swinging around his helmet, covering a wide area himself without anyone's help. Lord Pericles wondered why Thomas was out there all by himself without group members present. Therefore, he decided to wait it out to find the right moment to ask. Looking back at his heavy melee soldiers, he noticed that their fighting skills have improved drastically, not just during the practice, but also in real situations such as this. Probably the bit of rest they were able to get after that quick push into the city helped in many ways possible. The fight was over after a long while, and the heavy melee soldiers came back to Lord Pericles. Hey Pericles, how did we do this time? Commander Proteus walked over to Lord Pericles. As usual, great job. Lord Pericles looked at the few remaining militias who were fleeing for their lives. Next time though, finish them off too, okay? Suddenly, arrows hit all of those fleeing militias and they collapsed down. Upon seeing that happen, Commander Proteus burst out into laughter. Well, there you go. Your wish has been granted. Lord Pericles sighed. Don't be so joyful right now, Proteus. You guys already missed many enemies previously. Now they have regrouped in the church and threatened our flank. So go into the defense building with your men and rest up. Fortress keepers will treat your wounds and give you some food and drinks if you need any. Commander Proteus spread out his arms. Then who's going to defend the street? Lord Pericles smiled and glanced back. See there? The first and second squads of Lefteris platoon guys are coming. That's including Lefteris. And the first squad with Lefteris will defend the street while you guys rest, and this second group continues raiding. Then they'll switch around the task if the second group becomes tired. Also, Yoram and his small group members will come back here to help the medium melee guys on your behalf. You guys did more than enough, so go ahead and take your rest. Commander Proteus nodded and went into the defense building with his men. After seeing them go in, Lord Pericles approached Thomas, who was standing by himself. What are you doing out here all alone? Lord Pericles looked down at Thomas. Thomas grunted at Lord Pericles and lifted his helmet's visor to speak. Just looking for anyone to kill, I guess. Killing time is on hold for now, so go back to the harbor and bring your crossbowmen group and have them raid more in this strait until enemies come. I need everyone that I can possibly get right at this building, since I fear a large army approaching. Lord Pericles motioned at Thomas to go. Then, who is going to defend the market square and harbor? Thomas wouldn't budge from where he was. Lord Pericles sighed, but he knew deep inside that Thomas wouldn't listen to him at once. Commander Lucas is defending the market square and the harbor with Commander Lapidus and his second squad. Thomas raised his eyebrows. Really? That's an uneven balance of defense. It seems you're assuming that no one serious is coming from our flanks. I have noticed that some heavy melee guys have riled up our garrison enemies in the church, so they may try to do some sneak attacks on us. Lord Pericles was starting to feel his patience deteriorate. Thomas, I still have men all over this region to help him out. This area is smaller than you think. Thomas stretched his arms and took a deep breath. Okay, Lord Pericles, then who's going to defend the coastal street? Lord Pericles held on to his patience, just barely. I made Commander Takis go over there and lead Yoram's second small group of 4 guys along with Commander Lapidus' first squad. Many of them are still raiding as of this moment, and they'll be ready in no time when the enemies show up. Lastly, you need to get Claus and his group to go there and support them. Thomas flinched upon knowing that he and Lord Pericles had the same thoughts about who should be defending the coastal street. However, he didn't want to let Lord Pericles know that he had been thinking about such things, so he quickly switched himself into a boring outlook and yawned. Well, Lord, I must get going then. Thomas dusted off his hands and started walking away. Lord Pericles looked at Thomas as he walked away. Don't forget to do the things that I have told you to do. After that, you come back right here with your group. You hear me? Thomas waved at Lord Pericles. Yeah, I know. Lord Pericles grimaced as he saw Thomas walking away. He really couldn't understand why Thomas would always take so long to start obeying his instructions. Commander Kairos, come with us. You need to be stationed with Captain George, not with Commander Lucas. Seth urged Commander Kairos to follow his group to the defense building at the western street. What? I was just having a nice conversation with Lucas. I can't move right now. Commander Kairos wouldn't budge from where he was. Come on, Commander. Captain George wants you to be there, and we're quite sure Lord Pericles needs you there too. Seth reasoned with Commander Kairos. With hopeful expression, Ephraim, Apasios, and Lucio looked at Commander Kairos. All right, fine. I'll come then. Therefore, Commander Kairos followed them out of the harbor and then bid farewell to Commander Lapidus, who was sitting down on a barrel, about to doze out along with some of his men, who were sitting around with him. Upon seeing him, Commander Lapidus tried to get up and pretend that he wasn't dozing out at all. Commander Kairos quickly held up his right hand. It's fine, Lapidus. Rest up. Need your strength to fight. After that, Commander Kairos and his soldiers resumed their move back to the defense building at the western street. However, the group suddenly stopped to go to a food shop to check out what's inside. Once inside, Commander Kairos and Ephraim suddenly took some food and got into their seats to eat. Commander Kairos slurped on wine. Ah, that really hits the spot. He then bit into a huge chunk of cheese. To fill up my stomach, cheese is the best. He rubbed on his stomach and smiled in satisfaction. Ephraim chuckled. Indeed, you always know where to get in and where to get out, Commander. Seth looked at them in horror and paced about them in agony. After a while, he tapped on Ephraim's shoulder. Ephraim, we need to go. The guys are waiting for us. He shifted his gaze to Commander Kairos. Commander Kairos, please, we shouldn't linger here any longer. Suddenly, Apasios decided that he'll have a piece of this action too, and sat at another chair with some food, which he brought for himself. Therefore, Lucio went away to grab his share as well. Seth looked at Apasios and Lucio. Oh, not you guys too! Commander Kairos looked at Seth. Seth, it's alright to rest here and there during raiding events. It helps you to recuperate and be ready for greater and more strenuous actions later on. Seth looked up at the ceiling in frustration and sat on an empty chair. Shortly after, Apasios gave some food to Seth. Then, they continued eating until they were somewhat full. Commander Kairos smiled as he looked around at others. See, If you guys know how to control yourselves from eating too much, then you are free to rest here and there and eat and drink even during raiding moments. Ephraim smiled along. That's correct, guys. If you're not too drowsy after having some food, then you're still in good condition to participate in raiding. Soon after, Commander Kairos, Ephraim, Apasios, and Lucio laughed out loud while Seth looked at them with disgust. Commander Kairos noticed that Seth wasn't partaking in their joyful moment. What's wrong, Seth? You should relax. I tell you that as long as you get your priorities right and be alert in time to face the enemies, you don't have to be so serious all the time as you are right now. He drank some water to quench his remaining thirst. Not only is your current behavior draining your stamina rather quickly, but also, it surely adds tremendous stress onto your daily life. Seth looked at Commander Kairos for a moment. He was angry by now as he glanced at his commander. It was because the commander teased him and rebuked the way of his life. Seth considered himself as one of the most loyal soldiers in the fortress, and the fact that he wasn't getting any titles, even after 3 years of faithful service, spawned a small raging man inside of him who would never quit raging until he received a title. He didn't know why Kai was able to get officer title while he didn't, even though he was a medic and more qualified, served the same years together, and who didn't complain as much as Kai through the years of service in the fortress. Adding to such rage, Kai made Seth address him as officer the moment he became an officer, and that time was like walking through the hall of shame for Seth. However, he couldn't lose his patience now and lash out at the commander in the midst of raiding, and especially not so in the presence of his junior soldiers, Apasios and Lucio, so he gulped down his anger in a bit of struggle and took a deep breath. Suddenly, someone barged open the door and came in. Therefore, Commander Kairos flinched and looked towards the door. Commander Kairos, what are you doing here? It was Thomas, and with him came Officer Kai and his group, and Magnus and his group. Commander Kairos stretched his arms. Oh, yeah. He coughed a couple times and chuckled. We were just eating and having a quality conversation with each other. Thomas stumped on the ground in frustration. What? I thought I told Ephraim and Seth to bring you back to the defense building. He shook his head and grunted. Please follow us right now. We need to raid more and be prepared to defend the western street. Commander Kairos slowly got up from his seat. Yeah, we were just raiding here. He looked at those seated around him and motioned them to get up. Come now, let's take out those barrels of wine, sacks of cheese, and bags of meat. After that, hand them to Commander Lapidus. He'll take care of them. Then they swiftly took all such goods and moved out to accompany Commander Kairos to Captain George's squad on the roof of the defense building, and resumed raiding in the untouched buildings of Western Street. Gosh, is this what we engineers must do during raiding events? Placidus complained upon seeing heaps of raided goods that soldiers had simply thrown down on the harbor grounds. Simeon cleared his throat next to him as they manned the wagon. Not just engineers, but the fortress keepers and I have to do that too. He then pointed towards the ships. Commander Lucas is over there. He's been watching us lately. Placidus looked at Simeon and shifted his gaze to Commander Lucas. Yeah, I know that, Simeon. He's been bothering me with his incessant stare. He then looked back at his wagon and saw that it was somewhat getting close to being full. But no matter how much we pick up, other guys drop even more stuff down. He shook his head in frustration. Constance came to them. You know, Placidus, it seems your trauma from the previous raiding event has already disappeared. Placidus looked at Constance. Well, of course. Mine was nothing compared to what Carlos went through. He looked down in a bit of sadness. He almost died from his stab wound, so he's no longer the same man. Constance tapped on Placidus' shoulder. Don't you worry, Placidus. Carlos will get it back together pretty soon. It's only been like 4 months, so give him a couple months from now at least. Then you'll start going around bragging about the battle scar on his stomach. Then they looked at Carlos, who was carrying raided goods, so that he could put them into another wagon. However, he suddenly dropped them and started pacing back and forth, looking for something. Simeon chuckled. Whoops, seems like he needs to have a lavatory break. Placidus and Constance chuckled upon seeing Carpus rushing away towards a building. Oh, that reminds me. Placidus tapped on Constance's shoulder. Hey, Constance, how's your lavatory cleaning duties going? Are you almost done with your punishment? Constance frowned. No, I still have 8 more months. Don't you remember? You guys helped me in deciding on my punishment, which is a year of lavatory cleaning duties. Placidus nodded. Yeah, that's right. Still though, just for landing some punches and not sharing the loot, it's too much. He stopped the wagon at a large heap of raided goods and chuckled. But who would have known that a simple lavatory cleaning duty would be the worst punishment in our fortress? Yeah, it's simple, but the smell is just too impulsive to ignore, Constance said. After a while, they worked in silence for some time picking up goods and loading them into their wagon. Soon, the wagon became almost full, and Simeon and Constance started walking towards a heap that Placidus was picking from. Placidus glanced at Simeon, who came near. Hey, Simeon, are you going to join us for the upcoming Saturday discussion? Simeon grunted as he picked up the goods. Well, I don't know. I've always been with Claus and his squad, so I'm afraid that they'll take it as an insult if I suddenly leave to join you guys. Constance came to them. Come on, Simeon. Since you're not obligated to stick with a single squad at all times, it'll be fine to switch out once in a while. He stretched his arms for a moment. Also, Placidus and I sometimes switch into Claw's squad and join you, but Thomas and his squad never take it as an insult. Placidus smiled. Yes, Simeon. So join us for this upcoming Saturday. We guarantee you that Thomas' squad is hilarious to partake in as well. He glanced at Constance and then turned his gaze at Simeon. And sometimes the discussion spirals out of control and gets quite heated, so you'll surely enjoy it. Simeon smiled. Okay then, I'll swing by and get a taste of how Thomas' squad partakes in their discussion. Constance nodded. Great choice. Since Thomas and Ephraim started it, their squad is the original in the discussion, so it can't be worse. Are we ready? Commander Burke looked around at his men. He was standing on his wagon, trying to get a clear view of everyone. The city infantries had gathered up at the location that he wanted. So all he needed to do now was to attack the raiders. He deemed it so that he should first pretend to focus on attacking the western street, and later utilize other streets when the enemy seems to have fallen into the trap. A messenger hustled back to him. Commander, the first unit of militias have all been killed. Commander Burke looked at the messenger. What? No way! He took several deep breaths to calm himself down. I don't think that all of them have been killed, but instead, they ran from the battle zone since they were too discouraged by the massacre of city guards and the peasant levies. Not only that, there were no supervisors watching them, so collusion amongst them and fleeing together must have been the strong factor. The messenger shook his head. No, it's instead the other way around. Many of the harbor guards and some peasant levies have fled and are garrisoned in the church along with the few remaining gate guards and their archer for now, while the militias have really been massacred. Commander Burke paused for a while to think. It was definitely not the case that the militias would flee from the battle even before going at it with the best of their capabilities. Unlike harbor guards and peasant levies, the militias have been trained under supervision of fortress authorities, and this time he had just overseen their training routine a few days ago and deemed it certain that everyone is very obedient. Therefore, they wouldn't have gotten bold enough within a few days to go against the orders of the authorities. Furthermore, he didn't want to give too much credit to the raiders, because in his mind, the organized raiders were not that weak nor that strong of an enemy. Thus, he concluded that it must have been cooperation issues, the inability to fight as one, because whether intended or not, the harbor guards, peasant levies, and militias were all separated from fighting as one. So surely they would have beaten the raiders had they fought together. At the end, he needed to get his soldiers moving, and he didn't want a possible rumor to spread that the raiders are extremely strong, weakening his soldiers' morale in return. So he decided to push with those that he had. He turned to look at his officers. I want a regular swordsman unit, halberdman unit, and couple archer units to be mixed with our remaining militias to attack the western street, in order to get the enemy's focus on that street only. Then, I want the horse lancers along with the horse archers, then the foot lancers along with the foot archers to be hiding somewhere around the southern street, especially the one which directly leads to the harbor, hidden from enemy's eyes, before pushing in when we blow the great horn. For the coastal street, I want the remaining half of my soldiers, balanced in strength and cooperation, to push forth when the horn is blown. One more thing, I want a single unit of light swordsman group, preferably highly experienced guys from Konya, to be ready to squeeze through the buildings that are between the western street and the southern street, so that they ambush the enemies for us. That's it for my commands. Oh, wait! He looked for someone amongst his soldiers, then pointed at somewhere. You two big brutes, number 1 and number 2, you guys are in charge of other brutes. So go on ahead with the first group to make the battle zone be chaotic for the rest of us going after. I'll give those remaining in my group further commands as we go. And lastly, I want... Suddenly, they all heard the sound of a horn being blown by somebody deeper in the city. Wait, what was that about? Commander Burke looked at his soldiers. I think the rest of the city's troops have already begun their attack, the messenger said. Damn! I told them to meet out here first. Commander Burke looked at the messengers. Weren't those guys with us out here, every single one of them? No, some of them were stubborn and not coming out. I guess their commander wanted the fame all to himself. Commander Burke was on the verge of becoming extremely furious, but he wasn't going to make the same mistake all over again. Therefore, he looked back at his officer to speak. Look, before those guys get annihilated, carry out my plans right now. Therefore, the officers swiftly rushed away to order their troops, and it took a long time. But eventually, they marched out for their respective areas to fight. Lord Pericles flinched upon hearing the sound of a horn being blown. Wait, what was that? He looked around at his soldiers. By then, the medium melee soldiers had been stationed next to the defense building of Western Street and were waiting for further orders from Lord Pericles. Also, they had already raided quite much and clearly had the chance to leave. But a couple of things weren't done, which was that the wagon crews who returned from their previous trip still needed a long time to load the goods, and pretty much all soldiers had to clear their berserk behavior because the initial fighting wasn't even close to being enough. Soon, one of the two spies who was maintaining a vigilant watch on the grand area came back. Lord Pericles, a huge army is coming in our direction. I think it's all city infantry. We need to pull out right now. Lord Pericles became stone still and shocked for a moment, but he quickly got over it. We can't! The wagon crew still needs to load. We just can't pull out now. So we'll kill the incoming enemies, kill them over and over again. Then we'll slowly pull out. He then looked around at his soldiers and back again at the spy. Use my horse to deliver this message to Commander Lapidos. He and Commander Lucas need to maintain order in the market square and harbor, and get all the soldiers there available to defend if the enemies show up there too. He got off from his horse and took with him what he needed and gave it to the spy to use. The spy quickly got on the horse and left. Therefore, Lord Pericles looked back at his soldiers. Hey Lefteris, your first squad goes into this building to rest up along with Proteus and his guys. I'll defend the street along with you and your second squad and Yoram in this group. We need to do this so that the enemies don't find out about our true strength. Lord Pericles looked on as Commander Lefteris' first squad went into the defense building. Shortly after, he noticed Commander Kairos and Thomas rushing over to him with several crossbowmen and 2 gunners. Everyone, get up there immediately! He pointed at the defense building's roof. Thomas, you stay here with us. The crossbowmen struggled while going up to the roof due to their supply bags. Soon, Lord Pericles turned his attention back to Thomas. Hey, I don't think that was everyone. Where is Ephraim? Thomas smirked. Commander Kairos ordered him to bring over the siphonator cart. Lord Pericles sighed. That guy, Kairos. I told Ephraim to have that cart back at the village docks so that we use it before we flee just like the last time. He shook his head in disappointment. We could try to use that here. Thomas shrugged his shoulders. Who knows if we need it quite soon. He suddenly rushed over to the defense building to check something. Upon checking it, he waved at Lord Pericles to come over. Lord Pericles neared Thomas. What is it? Look at those windows. They are big enough to look outside and shoot something, but too narrow for enemy soldiers to come through unless they come in head first, which is an easy kill for us. Thomas chuckled. I'm saying that Ephraim and his siphonators, along with some crossbowmen and archers, could use those windows as their base to shoot the enemies. Lord Pericles nodded. That's a good idea, Thomas. Use your men as you wish. Commander, we have scouted the enemy's defense, and they only have about a dozen footmen guarding the western street and another dozen guarding the coastal street. What are your orders now? It was a spy talking to the city infantry commander. Commander gazed at the spy and pondered for some time. The couple dozen footmen defeating sufficiently trained militias and routing peasant levies was nonsense. He clearly knew that his peasant levies and militias numbered more than 50. Therefore, he decided to not go easy on the raiders anymore. Send 50 of my infantry to the main street first. Wait for a while to see if they are struggling. If they are, then you're to send around 50 more to Main Street and another 50 to the coastal street. The last 50 stays with me until I go into fight. Yes, Commander. I'll report your orders to the division leaders right away. The spy went away in haste. Alright, so that was the end of the chapter 1. Whew, it was so long. I mean, I think it's already been an hour. Alright, so anyways, chapter 2 is The Strait of Great Struggle. So there's your spoiler alert. Yep. I told you that this book will be much more intense than the first section. So anyways, I'll thank you for listening. I'll see you guys later.